Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind, episode 14. This week, we are jumping back a couple weeks to talk about Loki. But before we do that, wanted to revisit something we talked about last week. One of our friends, Jake, sent us an article about this. We talked about how... Before we do that, Niles, how are you doing today?
Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sorry.
You're good. We're learning as we go. I'm doing great, Dylan. Thanks for everyone for tuning in today. Like Dylan said, we're talking about Loki. And Dylan's wearing a great shirt that's not on theme today, in case you're watching. I love that Baby Yoda shirt. It's
cute.
Got
4 Baby Yodas on it. It's the best.
Totally unrelated.
Yeah, totally unrelated. And as I was saying before, Niles rudely interrupted me to talk about himself.
As I do, yeah.
Our friend Jake sent us an article about a topic we actually hypothesized about last episode, where did we think the Disney Plus premiere access of Black Widow launching simultaneously would hurt the box office or the theater industry in the long run? And so Black Widow has been out for a couple weeks. The box office dropped 67% into week 2. And the National Association of Theater Owners, NATO is their acronym, which is pretty funny in my opinion, they are pissed at Disney. And they said, quote, "Despite assertions that this pandemic-era improvised release strategy was a success for Disney and the simultaneous release model, it demonstrates that an exclusive theatrical release means more revenue for all stakeholders in every cycle of the movie's life. The many questions raised by Disney's limited release of streaming data opening weekend are being rapidly answered by Black Widow's disappointing and anomalous performance." They continued, "The most important answer is that simultaneous release is a pandemic-era artifact that should be left to the history with the pandemic itself." Niles, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a bold fucking statement from NATO.
North Atlantic Free Trade... Wait, is it the North Atlantic Trade Agreement or Trade Organization? Sorry,
Trade Organization. Yeah,
I should have known that right offhand.
Yeah,
they have some words with Disney.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were, getting outside of the trade industry and focusing more on film these days. No, like you were saying, just at the start of it, we kind of discussed this in the last episode that we did on Black Widow, and let's not say that we predicted it, because we didn't. But, we had discussed it, and we had hypothesized that, maybe something like this might happen. This is, I was actually kind of shocked to see how poorly it did just in the second week. The second week of it being in theaters, that's 67%. That sucks. That really sucks.
Yeah, but it is making money. Like the Plus thing did well for them. And I do understand the frustration from the theater owner's perspective, but also the pandemic is still going on. The Delta variant is sweeping across the world. California has mask mandates back. The CDC going around with the idea of bringing mask guidelines back nationwide as of today. So it's it begs the question, which, by the way, sucks. If you aren't vaccinated, I hate you. If you are eligible to get the vaccine and it's safe to get the vaccine and you didn't get it, then I hate you. If you have an actual health reason not to get it, you're fine. But that all begs the question. It's would the people who got it on Disney Plus have gone to the theater to see it? I don't know. I think we're still in that gray area, but it's something to watch going forward.
And we also got to take into account, this is worldwide. Disney released this on Disney Plus worldwide, and in theaters, I don't know what the rollout in the theaters was like, or even if theaters are open across the world.
Right.
So I think, in the U.S., I think that there was plenty of people that could have gone to go see it in the theaters, but there was also plenty of people that were like, I'm more comfortable staying at home and watching it from my bedroom. That's a fine enough experience for me.
Right. And if people prefer to do that, and it's probably easier for people who have young kids to be able to watch a movie at home, I that's valid. to want to do that. I think a movie like Black Widow is better seen on a big screen, personally. As with most movies, in my opinion, are better seen on a big screen. But I have a hard time like resenting people who would rather have the option to watch a movie at home. And like sometimes the theater experience isn't great. It just takes one asshole in the theater to ruin the whole thing for everybody. But yeah, so I don't know what the solution is for theaters because I don't want them to die. I think they're great, but
yeah, I agree. I don't want to see them go away or anything either. Going out to the movies, that's one of the best things I think that or not one of the best things you could ever do, but it's a really fun experience,
Yeah.
And this definitely, it kind of sends up a red flag for future Marvel movies, future Disney releases, future, like even something on HBO. That's kind of like, that's something that, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out down the line.
Yeah.
Especially since, I don't think that does HBO do like, you have to pay money on HBO for same day? You don't? Okay, so that's
let's see.
Bigger red flag.
I think the Suicide Squad is coming out on HBO Max day and date. Let me check on that HBO Max.
Because I remember being able to watch, Zack Snyder's Justice League for free on HBO Max.
Right, but that didn't come out in theaters, so it's a little different.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So the Suicide Squad will be a good test of this too, because the Suicide Squad 1 is free on HBO Max. Free, I know you're subscribing already.
Yeah.
But it's releasing day and date on HBO Max and theaters. So we'll see how that goes, because if that movie manages to still get a big return, like it's getting great reviews, it's James Gunn, it's a superhero movie, same genre, a director who is familiar with the Marvel movies as well, circles around them because he did Guardians. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to be reviewing that movie as well. We're going to have a discussion on it next episode. So, hopefully by that time, maybe we'll have like an idea of how it's performing in the box office. We can have another follow-up conversation to this.
Yeah. So I think with that, we can transition over to Loki. Sorry for anyone who was really excited to hear us talk about Space Jam 2. I didn't watch it. I've heard it's not great, but maybe it's fun. Who knows? I haven't seen the first one, so I wasn't going to watch the second one, and Loki seems more interesting to me. Shut up.
You never saw the original Space Jam?
No, I never saw Space Jam. I'm sorry. Or maybe I did, but I was really little. I don't remember it.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I would say, yeah, the original is well worth a watch. I watched that a lot as a kid, but yes, I have no interest in reviewing or watching the second one. So
I have seen a couple of videos that say it's kind of batshit enough to be fun, but I'll watch it eventually. It's on, I think it's I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, it's on HBO.
I don't know.
It's Warner Brothers. It's Looney Tunes. Loki. Non-spoilers first, very briefly, because there isn't much we can really dive into without spoilers, and it's been out for a minute. Thoughts on the show?
Almost a 10 out of 10, honestly. This show, I think, when the first episode came out, I had to rewatch it. I watched it, and then the next day I was like, okay, I have to rewatch that. That was so good. That was so interesting. Like, I was blown away kind of like every episode. I felt like, there was great character development, and the like reveals that they like kind of parsed out through the series of like, oh my goodness, the gasp moments. They rolled them out really well, and like I didn't see them coming at all, and like those. I really enjoyed the creativity here, and the cast of characters was just phenomenal, from Loki to Mobius to Miss Minutes to
to
everyone. Yeah, to more with spoilers.
We're getting into spoilers, yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What were your initial thoughts, Dylan?
Oh yeah, I really loved Loki. This is more what I gravitate towards in the MCU now. I think the weirder the better, which is good considering the upcoming slate of movies. I think we're going to get more and more of that. And
yes.
I think like while I liked Black Widow a lot, it felt like a step back to a past era of the MCU that I have. I liked the boots on the ground stuff too. I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I liked Black Widow as well. I didn't think it was bad, but this is what I have more fun with. Like, my top Marvel movies are probably the Guardians films and Thor Ragnarok and like an Infinity War and Endgame. So it's like these the more cosmic adventure weirdness is what I'm gravitating towards, and this has that a lot, but in a different way. Like the TVA is a primary setting of the show, and it's different than anything we've seen in the series so far. Loki's a great character, as always. We know this is a different version of him, and they kind of have their cake and eat it too with that different version of him, which we'll get to, but I loved him. I loved his dynamic with Owen Wilson's Mobius. I think they had great back and forth chemistry, and the other primary relationship that is a spoiler was also fantastic and very interesting. But yeah, Loki's great. Lots of surprises and sets up a lot of interesting things.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would 100% agree. I think, I like the weirder stuff. I like the stranger stuff in the MCU. I tend to gravitate towards that as well, I think. So, I enjoy the cosmic stuff. Anytime that they're battling aliens, warlocks, or wizards, it's cool and it's fun. And and where it's not like just like, oh, it's just some guy who's angry for no reason. It's like, okay, yes, there's something a little bit more at play here it's a little bit more complex.
It's not a disgruntled former Stark Industries employee this time.
It's not someone
those are fun too. But unlike the previous two Disney Plus shows, which have been kind of closed loop in a lot of ways, like WandaVision, great character study. The show still ends with spoilers for the old shows. The show mostly ends in the same place. Like, Wanda is still kind of off on her own doing her thing, upset about Vision dying. Vision is dead again. There is White Vision, but they will find a way to seed that. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Sam has the shield again. He is Captain America. Bucky is around. So it's while things do shift in those shows, you could go into the next outing of those characters and be caught up in an opening sequence, which I'm sure is what they'll do. Not the case here.
No.
And we'll get into specifics later, but like this is earth-shattering for the series. Like you don't watch this, you will not understand.
Yes, I absolutely. My girlfriend, she's not like a big MCU person, but she likes the movies and she'll watch them with me, and we've got her caught up. But like, I kind of sat her down and was like, you have to watch this series. Like, if you are going to go to any future Marvel things, if you're going to go watch any future, like, you have to watch this series because it just changes the game. And, it's, it's got such repercussions for the rest of the series, but it also sets up some great stuff down the line. And, I think it also kind of continues with that theme of the fourth phase, or at least the theme that I'm seeing a lot is this theme of like illusion and perception and who really controls what. We kind of saw that in Spider-Man. We saw that a little bit in WandaVision, kind of a little bit in, Falcon and Winter Soldier, but here, perception and the illusion of power is kind of, I think, not necessarily front and center, but it's there. It's very dominant in the show.
Yeah. And the TVA and its existence really adds a whole extra layer to everything we've seen before. It's like the things we've previously thought were huge, monumental, powerful threats are like trivialized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I understand can rub people the wrong way. But I think in order to preserve our sanity, let's just do spoilers so we can talk.
Let's do it.
Obviously,
let's do it.
I mean, the base praise is the cast is great. It's always great. Everyone is good. Everyone does their jobs well. All the characters are really interesting. I want to talk about implications of the TVA, though. The Time Variance Authority. So as you know, and as people who are still listening probably know, they maintain the sacred timeline. And at first, that bothered me, because looking back at Avengers Endgame, what they had like a 1 in 14 million chance of success, right? So initially I'm like, well, shit, then if they hadn't succeeded, the TVA would have just come in and erased the faulty timeline. But I made up some bullshit that makes me okay with it. So I don't know
it's it's your headcanon now.
It is my headcanon because I want to be happy. So Nathaniel Richards, Kang, who we meet at the end of the show and we'll talk about more, right? He wants to make sure that there are no more Kangs out there because he wants to be the only one. So I just made up something where in either scenario, Thanos wins or the Avengers win, that it just like maintains the sacred timeline because through sheer happenstance, neither reality results in a Nathaniel Richards in the future. So he didn't feel the need to interfere either way.
Yeah.
My bullshit headcanon that keeps me happy with the implications of the TVA. They do trivialize the Infinity Stones. They're paperweights to them, which is, I think, very funny.
Yeah, I think that reveal was hilarious, honestly, and like, you know, that was one of those moments where I just gasped. I was like, really? Holy shit. Like, that just changes everything and changes your perception of what the TVA is. And I mean,
it adds scope to the Marvel movies because they're so beyond, in terms of power, so beyond anything that we've experienced. It's like they are so in control that the most powerful things that have been the dominant force for the last 15 years or whatever are nothing.
Yeah, right. It's just like, oh yeah, look at all these, like, what was that, 12 years of world building, like building up these universes, saying, oh my god, these Infinity Stones, they're terrible, they're going to destroy the world, the ether is horrible, it almost killed Jane, you know, and then, yeah, they're just paperweights to these guys in the TVA who don't know what fish are, and, and yeah, I get what you're saying about the implications of the TVA, yeah, it does kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just maybe minimize, you know, the gravity of what the Infinity Stone saga was. But I think at the same time, you know, when you look at the comics of Marvel, which we haven't read, like much of them.
Yeah,
relatively
you've read more new to them.
Yeah, and you know. But the thing is that, you know, once they move on from Thanos, you know, there's always a bigger baddie. There's always something else that's a little bit bigger. There's Kang. There's the Galactus guy, the World Eater.
Yeah.
There's Silver Surfer. You know, there's Magneto. There's Doctor Doom. There's all these kinds of, like, you know, big bad guys that, you know, once you've done such a big bad guy as Thanos, you know, it's like, well, how do we make the next guy seem even bigger of a threat, you know, something that we're going to build to and build to and build to over the series.
Yeah. And in fairness, too, like, the Infinity Stones don't work in the TVA, and they have them because they've taken them from various timelines they've erased, right? But it's like, if Loki did take the Infinity Stones out into the timeline, they would still be mega powerful and do crazy things. So the stones themselves, they're only trivialized in relation to the TVA specifically. And even Kang, who we find out later, he's just a guy. Like, he's just a regular human man. So it's like, he is intimidating and scary, but not because he's like a bigger purple space alien. He's just a dude who's really smart, who, till the end of the series, like, just knew what was going to happen and programmed his little teleporter to, like, move him in the right ways, which is a great reveal that I want to talk more about when we dive into him. But on the note of the TVA, I love the aesthetic, the retro mid-century look to it. I think it reminded me a lot of Fallout. Fallout has that retro future look to everything. And it also, I heard this somewhere else, but it's like, it long term, the TVA will be more timeless than they would be if, like, the Marvel writers tried to imagine what the far future tech would look like, because as we've seen over the last decades, they're never right when they do that.
Yeah. Well, anytime, you know, someone in the past tries to predict, like, future fashion trends, like in Back to the Future, you know, it's like, don't, you were so off the mark. Like, there was nothing ever cool about that, like, silicone material, or those hoverboards never existed. And
or look at Blade Runner. Like, Blade Runner, the first one takes 2019. It's like, LA doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, it's not as dystopic.
No.
I mean, but I do like the appearance of the TVA, and, you know, the bureaucratic nature of it, I think, is just so funny. Like,
here's everything you've ever said.
This is absurd.
It's just immense amounts of paperwork and bureaucracy, and they're all in, like, business suits. It's great.
Yeah, well, like, it's such a funny thing, and, you know, I when I was growing up, I watched a lot of Futurama, and one of the big things in Futurama is there's this thing called the central bureaucracy, where everything is bureaucratized, everything, and there's like a big line to get into the bureaucracy, and this guy's standing there. He's an old man. He's like, I'm still waiting on my birth certificate. Like it's just like everything's so slow because it's like. You have to stamp the form 5 times, and you have to fill out this form exactly and ship it off to so and so at this time quickly. And like, I just thought that was funny growing up. Like that was such a good kind of recurring joke in Futurama. So seeing something like this that's like so overly bureaucratic for like little to no, like I guess there is a reason, but it's just like little to no gains overall. It's just kind of like it's just absurd. Should we dive into some of these main characters?
I think so. I think we need to talk about Sylvie.
Yes.
Prize of the episode, the second episode, the Loki variant. They're hunting the evil variant. Not really, but is a female Loki, Sylvie, as she goes by. And it was more surprising that she was female than it probably should have been, but it was. And
I know.
She is awesome. Loki and her is the primary dynamic of the show, which surprised me as well.
Oh yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. I think, similar to you, coming into this show after watching the trailers, I thought it was just gonna be Loki and Mobius,
Which
buddy cop dynamic. Yeah, we still get a lot of that. I thought it was just gonna be mainly like a buddy cop kind of show, kind of similar to what we had with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, maybe. But I don't know who that third character was going to be in there. That was kind of mixed in. And yeah, Sylvie came around as a surprise. I wasn't expecting that reveal at the end of at the end of this second episode that she was a she. It's a female version of Loki, and that's like, whoa, like that totally warped my perception. Because when they showed those little look at all these variants of Loki. You have the Tour de France Loki, and you have the big troll kind of Loki guy. And it's like, I thought, that set up the assumption that they all look like Thomas Hiddleston, and clearly they don't. And I like that.
That was fun. And I like, I like all the variants that we eventually get. I think they're fun, especially the alligator.
Yes.
That was great. But Sylvie is a very interesting character, and it seems that her only Nexus event was being a girl, like being born female, and that's so upsetting that it's like she did nothing wrong. She was just a child, and they came to literally murder her and her entire reality for that one small thing.
That was upsetting to see.
Even more so because Loki, both in the Marvel comics and in Norse mythology, is gender fluid. So it's like...
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, why can't Loki be whoever he wants to be?
Yeah. And if you get upset by an element of his character like that, like the fact that he's gender fluid or bi, just remember, Loki impregnated a horse at one point. So fuck you if you're upset by this.
I didn't know that. That's great.
I didn't either until people, of course, predictably started bitching about him being bisexual, which is great. Great inclusion. It is the most firm, planting of LGBTQ plus representation in the MCU, is it can't be simply edited out for countries that don't like that. Because it's actually a central character conversation.
Yeah, that's great. And I think Sylvie's such a great character choice, and, the actress, she did amazing. What was her name?
Sophia DiMartino.
Sophia DiMartino, she did a fantastic job, and she's just so cute. Like she was so expressive with her facial, with her facial emotions, and I thought that she was just so cute the entire time, especially when they were kind of snuggling up underneath the blanket. I thought that was just, I don't know. I went, oh, that's so cute. I hope that everything works out for them, and of course it doesn't.
You know what makes that moment even more cute, which has been pointed out many times online, is they're both frost giants. That was just both of them pulling a move on each other, and they were both completely aware of what the other was doing. It was sweet. we should talk about that relationship because it's weird, but it works because they are variations of the same person, and they fall in love together. And
well, it certainly takes the right kind of person, because if I met a female version of myself, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like her.
It's called narcissism, Niles.
Exactly. I really like who I am, but if I probably saw those same personality traits on my significant other, I probably might think about strangling them in their sleep. But
they are very different people, though. Like
they are
in practice, like functionally, they are variations on the same human, but they have lived vastly different lives and do have very different personalities. I did see, and I need to start like writing these people's names down when I see this stuff because I would like to credit them. But we have seen Loki in the past several movies and stuff learn to have compassion and love for other people. And I saw somewhere that this series is about him learning to love himself, which is personified with Sylvie, which I found very interesting. And it makes the relationship feel a lot more on point than it may have otherwise. So it's like this series is about Loki's self-love, and it manifests in him literally falling in love with a version of himself.
I love that. That's so cool. I can't believe I didn't think of that before. And now, just as we're recording this, I just got this idea that, at the end, Kang is like talking about like, oh, this is so weird, two variants of each other, and that you guys are into each other. That's so abnormal.
I love how Mobius is like weirded out by it earlier.
Right? He's like, that's so narcissistic. It's so weird and sick. But I, just sitting here as we're having this conversation about, gender fluidity and Loki being bisexual, I think it also kind of speaks to the idea of, LGBTQ plus relationships and, kind of being accepted for who you are and who you love and who you want to be. Because, if I feel like if Loki tried to have that relationship anywhere else, on the sacred timeline or anything like that, it wouldn't stand. But because, it's his own series and they're kind of doing their own thing and, this is kind of removed from the sacred timeline, he's able to have this relationship and allow it to grow. And I don't know, just kind of thought off the top of my head of like, oh, it's a small representation of that.
Okay, yeah. So
maybe.
So the breaking off from what is supposed to happen allowed him to more truly be himself. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I suppose. And I don't know. It was just like an idea, or it's like, oh, it's a loose allegory for these couples that are experience consistent discrimination in our society. But maybe that's just me reading too much into it. But I really enjoy their relationship, and I think it's a great dynamic. And I really like that line at the end where it's like, why aren't we on the same page about this? And he's like, because you can't trust, and I can't be trusted.
Yep.
And that's just, I thought that was beautiful. That's like poetry.
Yeah, it's a great, tragic, like, falling out. And obviously we will see more from both of them in the future. We're getting a season 2, the first Disney Plus show, or Marvel show to get it to season 2, which is exciting. But real quick, when they meet in the grocery store in that hurricane, just a little Easter egg I wanted to throw in, which is probably going to be relevant for Thor 4. It's a rocks cart, and the Roxxon Corporation is a big part of the Jane Foster Thor arc. It is run by this like evil businessman named Dario Agger, who is a Minotaur for some reason, but he is, and he's this like evil businessman who just wants to strip mine Earth for oil, and he's working with Malekith, the Dark Elf, to take over the realms. It's very fun. I forget who's playing him, but someone has been cast as that character in Thor 4. Just a little Easter egg, seed and something.
That's cool.
Yeah, so and it was very clearly like a far future Amazon grocery store type thing that they were going for with that, the Rocks Cart grocers.
Yeah, some of those apocalypses. Yeah, that one where it's like, oh, it's a hurricane, like a terrible hurricane that's going to destroy the city in Alabama. It's like, that's really comforting about the future.
Yeah, and it wasn't that far in the future, if I recall, either.
Yeah, it's like 20 years, something like that. It's like, ugh.
Honestly, not that unrealistic. unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's a good Easter egg. Of course, I wouldn't have caught that. So
Yeah, I love the plot element of hiding in apocalypses, though. I thought that was really cool.
Yes.
Because I mean, Loki is right. Like, if everyone in that scenario is going to die shortly after, it's the, you know what? You know why? I'll say it now because it ties in. It's Sound of Thunder. The ending of this series reminded me a whole lot of Sound of Thunder. Because have you read the short story? Or do you?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's where I don't know if it's where the butterfly effect comes from, but that is a part of the story. So, Sound of Thunder is it Ray Bradbury? Hold on, I'm sorry. Sound of Thunder. Sound of Thunder is Ray Bradbury, yes. And the premise of that story is that there is a company that allows you to go back in time to the time of the dinosaurs and hunt and kill a dinosaur. But you have to stay on the elevated track so you don't step on anything you're not supposed to. And they kill the dinosaur like seconds before it was going to die of something else anyway. And the whole story is very short. It basically, they go back in time, they do this, they kill the dinosaur, or no, the gun doesn't go off properly. So the dinosaur starts attacking them, people freak out. The main character accidentally steps off the path, and then they do kill the dinosaur, and they go back to the present, and everything is different. Like, the languages are different, all the signage is different, like, everything has changed. And the ending of this, when he goes back to the TVA and starts talking to Mobius and Hunter B-15, and who are you? That felt very Sound of Thunder to me. And the reason everything's different in the story, he looks down at his boot, and he stepped on a butterfly. And that butterfly being killed in that moment set off a whole series of like chains of events that caused an entirely different reality to form. So hence the butterfly effect.
Right.
Long way of saying I love the accuracy of the hiding in apocalypses, because if everything around you is going to cease to exist shortly, there are less consequences for what you do.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I mean, I always kind of knew I always knew of that trope, but I guess I didn't know the exact story of it. But yeah, I mean, it was a clever plot element to hide in apocalypses. I thought that on the first time I watched the series. The second time, when I was watching it through with my girlfriend, I just kind of like turned to her at the end of the second episode. I'm like, what kind of detectives is like Mobius? Like what? Like come on! Like if you're a detective and you're looking for a variant who's like the most variant of all the variants, who's like out there causing chaos on the timelines, like just I feel like you should be able to figure out where he's hiding pretty easily if you can't find him. But I don't know.
Well, that's the downside of bureaucracy. You know, they were so stuck in routine, they didn't consider the off the cuff possibility, which is why
that's true.
He needed someone who thought like a Loki.
Yeah. I think that's very true. Just smallest complaint about the series is right there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right though. Like, he's presumably been hunting this variant for 1,000 years or something, maybe, and he hasn't thought of that, and no one in the organization has thought of that. But you know,
that's fine. It works for the series.
That. Yeah, it works, and I do love the dynamic between Mobius and Loki as well.
Yes, yeah.
Jumping aside from Sylvie and Loki for a bit, but
Go ahead.
I was just spewing words. I like that they eventually develop a trust, even though Mobius is like very sure that Loki will betray him at all times, and he's just staying one step ahead. I like that. I like he is as clever as Loki. I think, and their back and forth is very fun. Their chemistry is great. Owen Wilson has a lot of fun in the show.
Yeah, I was really expecting him to say "wow" at least once.
I think they deliberately excluded that.
Yeah, I would probably do that too. But yeah, that would have been funny if he was just like looking at Eliath, going "wow."
Wow.
But yeah, I think Mobius and Loki, they were a good dynamic as well. Good buddy cop kind of dynamic. He's kind of acted like the mitigating third party between the between the two Lokis, and I thought that was a nice balance to throw in there. And considering the fact that Owen Wilson didn't know anything about the MCU before he took on this role. I think he did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, yeah, and I did for a moment genuinely believe he had died when
Me too.
he had zapped. I actually, you may feel free to call me an idiot, but part of me was like, maybe Loki really died too, and we're doing a protagonist switcheroo here to Sylvie. I thought that was a possibility until the post-credit scene immediately confirmed Loki is there. And then I'm like, oh, well, Mobius is probably here too, unless this is just Loki world. But
Yeah, I got really sad too. That would have been an interesting shift for sure if it was just now it's Sylvie's show and she was the Loki all along. Like that would have been neat, but
it would have.
you know, I think it's better. Yeah, the way that they did it, I think, was a lot better than just killing them off.
They made the right decision. It was just in that moment, I'm like, holy shit, they just killed off Loki. And
yeah,
like it's like the thing where it's like you let the death fake out breathe a little bit. Mobius's did breathe. It was very good because even though Loki was around, there was still enough doubt that Mobius was also there, I think, going into the next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, when they were kind of, it made it seem like only a few things got sent there, at least on the first watch through, when she was kind of explaining how it worked. I was like, so it doesn't sound like everything gets sent to the void, but I don't know.
Maybe I think it all does, but most of it gets sucked up by Eliath pretty quickly, was my impression. Lots of Easter eggs in that place.
Yeah.
Had the Thanos copter.
Yes, Thanos copter.
We had the Thanos copter. We had Frog Thor trying to get at his little Mjolnir, or regular Mjolnir, inexplicably.
Yeah. We had the one of those Thanos ships, or the
and Ronin's ship.
Ronin's ship, that's what it was. Yeah,
Ronin's ship was there.
The helicarrier was there. There was a helicarrier in the background. Was that Stark Tower?
It was the same building, but it was owned by a different guy who's like a villain or something. I don't remember.
Oh,
but so a variant of the tower that was owned by a different person. Interesting stuff. I liked that episode a lot. The variations on Loki were all really fun, especially classic Loki, Richard E. Grant, who saves the day by making the best illusion ever.
Yeah, he was kind of he stole the show in that episode. Same with Alligator Loki. He stole the show. I think that they were phenomenal, and I honestly would have appreciated getting to know them a little bit more, like a little bit more screen time for the other Lokis. I think I would have appreciated that. That would have been cool.
Well, there's still time.
Yeah, that's true. You know,
I think classic Loki died, but the rest.
Yeah, he's gone.
The rest of them are still there. President Loki is still around, which I loved that twist. I thought that was main Loki from the trailer.
Me too.
And we were all duped. It was a different one.
Yeah, right. And I liked the boastful Loki. He was kind of funny. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, and after I killed Captain America and Iron Man, I took the stones." And it's like, what? No fucking way you did. It's like, but I would say that I think this also applies to the kid Sylvie. I don't think that the kid Loki was I don't think he did a very good job acting.
Oh, okay.
You know, in that role. I don't know. I think kid actors kind of always struggle to convey emotion and come across with the right tone and stuff. So maybe that's just me.
I think that's a pretty common feeling. But like, it's he was like 11 or something. I like that his Nexus event was that he killed Thor. That was kind of a dark surprise there.
Yeah, I really wonder how he did it, you know, like, and I'm so curious about like Alligator Loki too. Like, did he come from a world of alligators, or was it the same world? So, you know, it's the same old like Odin and being like, son, you're adopted. And he's
did you see that picture of
what?
Anthony Hopkins holding an alligator and then someone the Loki crown on it?
I want to see that now.
You should look it up. It's funny. But yeah, I liked that episode. I liked that Mobius rescues Sylvie. Or I like that she like kills herself to get there. Thought that was Oh,
It was a huge gamble.
It was a huge gamble. Yeah, that very easily could have gone poorly for her.
Yeah.
But
She could have been lying to
that's
you.
after they already know that the Timekeepers are a sham, a Wizard of style sham, which was a great sequence because it's like nobody picked up on that in that organization until then. Even Renslayer, the sort of boss lady, was like, "This is weird."
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't expecting it too. Like, I think that was one of the great reveals of the season, that just kind of, I mean, I always kind of knew that there was something off about the Timekeepers. Like, I thought that maybe it was just going to be one of them. One of them was going to be Kang, and the other two were just puppets.
Right, which I think was the running theory. Everyone seemed to be talking about Kang, but I also thought he was one of the Timekeepers. And I thought maybe, like, the other two would be killed by the end of the series, and we would have a reveal that, like, Kang is there to be dealt with. But no, they were all just puppets. Literally.
Yeah, that was surprising. They're stupid androids that just sat in the chair all day, and like they had cool voices, but that was it. Like, they didn't do anything else.
It was a Wizard of Oz display. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, very true. At the end of the yellow brick road, it's disappointing. The road keeps going.
The end of the golden elevator.
Yeah, that was great.
Should we get to Kang, the ultimate of the series, the conclusion?
Let's do it.
Okay, so some people thought this was slow and too talky. For a show about Loki, seems very appropriate. So I'm happy with it. And Kang himself it's a great performance. I loved it.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors did a great job as Kang, and it'll be nice to see him kind of hopefully revive that role in the future. I believe he will.
He's confirmed it. He's an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Good. Good.
I think he's going to be our next Thanos style villain. I think he's going to be around for a long time.
Absolutely. Now that Thanos is out of the picture, we need someone to replace him. Kang is kind of the obvious one to choose. Either that or, like, the other ones that we kind of talked about earlier.
Galactus.
Like Doom or Galactus. Those would be good ones too, but those could also be like singular films, or even Galactus could be like way in the future too.
I think he'll be way in the future.
Yeah, so I think they've set up the cosmic level baddie in this series, and now we have someone to look forward to in this series of someone who's just going to come in and wreck shit, just clean house and show the Avengers what's what.
Yeah, well, I'm curious how they handle one. I love that it's him, and I knew very little about this character before the show, but I love that it is him post Thanos, if he is our next big bad for a long time, because he is just a man. He is a smart man, or, as I think it might end up being, he is many smart men on different Earths, and I've seen it floated around that maybe it is not the same Kang each time he appears. Maybe it is a different version of Kang, and they're all fighting against each other for supremacy, and then the multiverse just gets caught up in the chaos and has to figure out how to undo what has been done. Because it's like, if you kill me, there will be a way worse version coming around the bend. So I'm excited to see who that one is and how Jonathan Majors plays him differently, if he does at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this guy kind of felt very subdued and calculated, but he knew everything that was going to happen, so of course he knew exactly what to say and went in the right tone. So I think the acting will be different, but it'll be similar. And I think just all around he's going to be a fantastic villain. And I personally thought that episode 5 was a little bit drawn out, like the second to last episode of the series where they fought Goliath. I thought that sequence was kind of one of the moments where I was like, okay, speed this up. Like, I'm getting a little bit bored.
Okay.
So I appreciated that they kind of did the climactic battle a little bit before the ending and not necessarily on the last episode. The last episode, you get to like talk to the villain and actually get to know him and why the fuck he's doing this. It's not just like, I got to fight him because he's bad, I'm
glad it was not a fight, really.
Yes.
Like, once Sylvie decides to kill him, it's over pretty quick. She just stabs him because he's a guy. I do love the moment, though, where he reaches the end of his knowledge. Like, his expression changes, Major's acting shifts a little bit, and it's just good acting. And he's so comfortable with his life ending because he's just so tired.
Yeah, he's like, I've been doing this for
Millennia,
way too long.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this. Like, I have my own citadel. I've got a legacy. Yeah, I think.
And he gives him the choice. He's like, do whichever you want. Like, I can't stop you.
Yeah, I will say that the existentialism of that, like that decision, it's kind of like overwhelming, you know?
What do you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, of course, I would go with Loki and not Sylvie in that case. I think a lot of people would choose that. She kind of made the Peter Quill decision of acting on emotion and dooming the entire universe.
Yeah, but also it's like, that's eliminating a lot of free will at the same time,
Yes.
It's the question of, like, do you do... It's like a big brother thing. It's like, maybe not Big Brother exactly, but it's like, do you maintain absolute dominant control over literally everything to prevent a hypothetical bad thing from happening, which is what he's doing. And it's like, for him, not hypothetical, I guess he experienced it, but they killed millions and billions of people to maintain this sacred timeline. Like, every time something varied slightly, they erased the entire reality from existence. So it's like, how much is too far?
Yeah, right.
And who gets to have control of that? Why does Kang get to have it? Why do Loki and Sylvie get to have that type of power over all life and making for the entirety of time?
Well, yeah, that kind of omnipotence is it's too much. It's like, it's overwhelming. It's a lot to, like, comprehend. Even when you say it, you're like, I control everything. The timeline is mine, and I've made the path, and you walk down it. It's like, Jesus Christ, slow down 1 second.
I do love Loki's hesitance, though. I think it shows how much mature he is at the end of the show than he was at the beginning. Because at the beginning, he's coming from 2012 Avengers, where he wanted to be ruler of Earth. And by the end of it, he has the opportunity to be ruler of so much more. And he's like, well, wait a second. We need to make sure we do the right decision here.
Yeah.
Because he's right. Yeah. Like, the consequence of getting it wrong is potentially catastrophic. And they do get it wrong? Maybe? I don't know.
It seems like they got it wrong, but it's okay, because, now we got Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming into Spider-Man.
They made a mistake. Like, consequences are arriving, but I'm curious to see, is the result of this arc going to be the multiverses reunited, or is it going to be that the multiverse persists, which I think opens up a lot more storytelling opportunities for Marvel if they keep it. Because you can have various different versions of characters on different planets. Like, that is a more acceptable way to me to showcase characters you've killed off, is like the different multiverse version of them. Did I talk about my multiverse character idea last episode? I don't remember. But
of your what character?
I just thought it would be fun that, like, when we see multiverse versions of characters we know, that, like, if they brought in actors who were being considered for the parts but did not get them.
Oh, yes.
I did.
Yeah,
I did
you mentioned that. Yeah,
okay.
Like Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise
as
John
Iron
Krasinski,
Man, or like...
Yeah.
Like, that would be super
cool. The multiverse
cool.
open, you can do that type of stuff. It doesn't make sense if you have a singular timeline, but we'll see. I think What If, the animated series, is going to play into this multiverse stuff too, because it seems like that might be more connected within itself than we initially thought. But we will see. But Sylvie's mistake leads to a great cliffhanger ending. I think, as I mentioned, remind me, Sound of Thunder sets up loads of future stuff. Spider-Man No Way Home, that's what it's called. Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
See, we got Eternals, I guess, might be kind of connected to that.
Maybe,
but,
yeah. I
We've
can't
got
tell. Shang-Chi, I don't think will have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think that and like Hawkeye and Miss Marvel, they'll have their own kind of contained stories. But I
They're
think
the more ground
Spider-Man,
level things.
yes, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I think those are definitely tying into this movie.
Especially
and,
since Loki and Wanda
or
are
series.
both confirmed for Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, it's gonna be so cool. Those
It
three
is.
sorcerers.
Yeah. My question for you, though, Loki's season 2, and this season obviously has led into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Where does season 2 pick up? Like what? Because that's the weird thing about Marvel. It's like the second movie or season of these properties is never the direct follow-up, except for Iron Man 2. That's like the only one. But everything is like, we're going to have a lot of stuff in between season 1 or 2. It's like, do you think we'll see Sylvie again before season 2, or is she going to be a show mostly character? I'm very curious.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I think she's just going to be contained to the show just for now.
For now.
I mean, I don't know exactly when the second season's coming out. It's going to be like
I don't think they've said. I think we
probably a year at least or something.
got a lot this year already. I mean, Shang-Chi and Eternals and Hawkeye and Miss Marvel are all this year.
Yeah.
We don't have that much of this year left. I guess we have almost half, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. And then Multiverse of Madness is, I think, March 2022.
I believe so. Yeah, everything got shifted back and around due to COVID.
Yeah. All kinds of crazy scheduling conflicts. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a really good question. I think where the series will pick up, Loki will be prisoner once again in Kang's TVA, and they're going to be trying to. That's where I envision it going because when he showed up at the end there.
But he will be in Doctor Strange too, which is first.
Well, then maybe time jumps around. I don't know, because time works differently in the TVA.
Okay, fine.
Maybe it does. I don't know. But I think that could be kind of a cool way to start it, because they clearly didn't know who he was, and they were like, we got like a situation here, like we need someone to come down here and help us deal with whoever this variant is.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good place to start season 2 is him being another prisoner, and maybe they're trying to extract some information from him or something, and it'll be maybe about Sylvie's quest to reunite with Loki and maybe fix the problem.
Yeah, fix what she fucked up.
Yeah, I think that'll be her main driver in season 2 is like, I got to fix this problem that I caused. I didn't know that I made the wrong decision.
Right. I think Renslayer will be a primary antagonist in season 2 because she exits the show. I'm sure Kang will be a presence. We just there's so much we don't know because we don't know what Kang's larger role is going to be at this point. If he's even still going to be around by season 2, I imagine he will be. How did you feel about the twist that the entire TVA was variants?
I really enjoyed that. Them being variants, like, plucked off the timeline. I thought that was very clever. But the thing at the end of it being a variation of the TVA where Kang, there is no timekeepers. It was always Kang, Yeah. And I think that part was more mind-blowing to me than realizing, every single individual person in the TVA was a variant.
It was a great ending, a great final scene.
Yeah.
A question on that, actually, for you is, do you think that is our TVA and it has just been altered by what Sylvie did? Or do you think when she sent Loki back to the TVA that since the multiverse had started splintering, that she sent him to the TVA, but to a different reality's TVA?
I think she's. But yeah, I think she sent him to a different TVA. Time can jump around and everything like that, obviously in this show. But when we saw Mobius and Hunter B-15, just like probably like a scene before that reveal, it was their own kind of thing, and they were watching the timeline split off, and Mobius was like all undone, like his tie was messy, and his hair was kind of a little messy. And then when we see the new ones, his tie is all nice. They're kind of communicating about like the timeline, and I think they seemed a lot more like variants than the ones that we've gotten to know over the season.
Well, and they seemed like they were trying to stop what was going
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and I agree. I think that implies that our Mobius and B-15 are out there somewhere still, and Loki is just in a different reality.
Yeah, possibly. There could even be, I don't know, I just had this thought the other day. Maybe it could be a whole thing where it's like, or season 2 is like TVA versus TVA, you know, like multiple TVA agencies battling for supremacy. You know, that could be kind of neat, but it could be a little repetitive if we're just seeing them prune each other the whole time. Just get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here.
Yeah, the pruning of Mobius was definitely a hugely emotional scene, I think. And I like how he does not return the favor to Renslayer. He's just like, my standards are a little bit higher than yours regarding this. Like, I'm not going to zap my friend, even though you've totally betrayed me. And I do like that the TVA genuinely did not know that they were all variants. Like, it is a surprise to all of them.
Well, yeah, it's such a good, representation of, just authoritarianism. You know, you're just blindly following this idea and just believing it to be true with all your heart because that's what you've always been told. But it's like, Plato's cave, it's like a Plato's cave allegory where it's the shadows on the wall, but as soon as you step out from behind and see the light of day, you realize, oh, that's not real. Yeah. That's just an illusion of power. That's someone manipulating me. And yeah, I think that was great. Like, I love that twist there. One of the things that when I was watching it through the first time, I didn't really mind too much was the amount of exposition in this show. But on the second rewatch, I kind of felt like there was a little bit too much exposition at points. What about you? Do you feel like there was too much exposition?
I only watched it once, but I did not feel that way. I think there was a lot of world building to be done, and a whole lot of future stuff. And I understand, like, over expositing is a flaw generally, but I think I just felt the conversations were so interesting.
Yeah.
And I think most of them revealed character throughout. I don't think it was just exposition ever. It's been a while since I watched it, so I could be missing some details, but I felt like every conversation either built on the relationship between Loki and Mobius, or Loki and Sylvie, or Mobius and Renslayer, and eventually Sylvie and Loki with Kang. I think all of the character dynamics were always in play in interesting ways, so I didn't have a problem with it, but maybe on rewatch eventually I will. I haven't actually rewatched any of the series yet. So.
Oh yeah, this was the only one that I rewatched just because I thought it was so good and I wanted to get my girlfriend all caught up on it. That was just a critique that I wrote online, that there was like an abundance of exposition. And yeah, I agree that I don't think that there was too much. It was just kind of the right balance. And what you were saying earlier, like that's exactly what Loki would do, though, is he would try and talk his way out of so many situations. He's not like quick to violence like Thor, like I'm going to just smash my way out.
Yeah.
He's going to take his time and try and be poetic about it and be like, excuse me, I have manners, so would you please allow me to leave?
Well, like the sequence on the train where Sylvie is more quick to rush to violence because she's been on the run and having to fend for herself, and Loki's like, I'll just get us in. I'll talk us in. And he puts him in the stupid uniform. And it's a weird moment for his character that he just gets hammered on the train. And I like it. It's funny. But it's like, you are such a planner, and you just got shit-faced. Ruined the entire plan. I did love that episode, though. A lot of people were down on that episode when it came out. They're like, oh, it's just filler. It's like, no, it's not. These are two of the main characters of the show, and this is all about developing them. If you think that's filler, then you need to watch movies differently. I'm sorry. I know that's like elitist, but you're watching it wrong if you think the character stuff is filler. That's the most stuff. I also love that their entire quest was just futile. I was like, it's like, even if Loki hadn't gotten drunk, they would have gotten to the ship and it would have blown up anyway. Like, they were screwed. And then
it was all inconsequential. It's like, fuck.
And and then they end up getting saved by Mobius. And I love that the time prison Mobius puts him in, where Sif comes out and like kicks him.
Yeah, Sif, who we haven't seen for several movies.
Yeah,
Like,
she was the lead on a TV show called Blind Spot, I think. Something like that. So she had a scheduling conflict with Thor 3, and was probably good for her character because the other Warriors 3 get killed by Hela.
That's true. They die instantly.
She is in Thor 4 though, I believe.
Okay, cool.
So.
Yeah, I like the time prison. I thought that was really neat.
Speaking of Sif, sorry, I'm going to do a little plug. I have a video of Sif on my channel from a long time ago.
That's right.
I pitch a Sif road trip through space movie, and I really like that video. Go check it out.
Yeah, I remember watching that. That was fun.
Yeah, it's a shorter one, but check it out.
He's got a lot of great content on his channel anyway. So
thanks.
Just to pivot a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
One of my complaints, I might have already said this earlier before, like I think there should have been a lot more of the Loki variants. Gotten to know them a little bit more. I think that would have been great. I also kind of think that classic Loki's sacrifice, like to Eliath,
mm-hmm.
Creating that amazing illusion, was a little unmotivated. He just kind of met them.
Yeah.
He just met these two Lokis, and sure, they got a plan, and like they kind of got some help from the TVA, so that's kind of encouraging. But you just met them, and they kind of just deposed your little kid Loki king, by accident by leading them to, So it's like, why are you helping them? Why would you do this just for your?
Well, I remember it was
purpose?
boastful Loki who was the one who led the.
Well, yeah,
I see what you mean. No, I kind of agree, but I also think listening to his story, he would be the most likely to help them at the same time because it's like he lived forever and then only left his isolated planet because he got lonely and he wanted to experience connection again. And he was probably like, I'm at the end of my time for the most part. May as well succeed. He was just probably trying to be a good dude. I don't know.
True.
Because he was the most mellow of all the Lokis.
Yeah, and we've always seen that one side of Loki where he's like, I'm actually a good guy. Underneath all this, the appearance, the facade of it all, I'm really a good guy. And that definitely came across when he gave his life to help the fellow Lokis escape. But, I would love... I've seen some Instagram posts about it of can we please get a classic Loki, an alligator Loki show, or even a mini series, I don't know, 30 minutes of more of them.
Just them on that planet would be fun.
Yes, I'd love to see that.
That would be really fun.
Because he's the only one who could.
War of the Lokis, just like a Loki battle world, pretty much.
That would be fun.
You could have them fly the Thanos copter.
Yes, the Thanos copter.
The
one thing that Thanos would never need.
Yeah, but on the note of classic Loki and sort of his regret and how he left because he wanted to see his brother and he missed Thor and he wanted to know if anybody else missed him. I really liked that, but it also just having Loki in the protagonist role here for the first time really gives them an opportunity to spotlight his pain and his regret and who he really is. Because he admits it's all of this bullshit that he does is just for attention and to be an asshole. He's not actually a bad person who hates people. It's just what he knows to do because he's been doing it for so long. He doesn't know how to be different. And we watched Loki go on that journey so in a decent way through Ragnarok mostly, and Infinity War for about 5 minutes. But I think we get to see it even better here. His character growth is more a focus, and it's more slow, even though they do kind of cheat a little bit with him just watching his whole life on videotape beforehand. But
yeah, that part, I thought that catching up to speed, it was efficient and it was well done. When I first watched it, I was like, yes, that's exactly what it needed to be. It needed to be quick, to the point. In the first episode, catch him up. And now he's kind of the same Loki that we knew in Thor Ragnarok.
It was cheating, to be clear.
Yes.
Absolutely cheating, but
it
accomplishes it fine. I don't think it's too much of a cop-out. Because he's not as good as he is in Infinity War for a while. He's still, tries to betray Mobius multiple times. He's still all of his tricks and isolating himself from everyone. It takes the whole season for him to get to that point again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was totally fine. He got caught up, but yeah, he was just missing out on 2 whole movies worth of character development. So, that'll set you back a little bit, I'd say.
Let's see.
One other thing, or I guess just something that I noticed, while I was scrolling through Instagram again, that apparently there's a lot of deleted scenes that I kind of wish they kept in.
Okay.
There was I think that there was one scene at least. I haven't read everything, but there's one scene where I think it was the transformation of Thor into Throg, the frog version of Thor that gets trapped. And there's I think it was a whole scene of him battling Loki and kicking the shit out of him.
Oh, wasn't Hemsworth on set for that? Didn't he?
I think so. I don't know, but he probably was. And then I think there was another deleted scene where Loki kind of became the king of Asgard and just kind of fucked around for a bit.
Yeah, that was on the
something.
posters, I think, wasn't it? Or some of the posters.
Yeah, and I think that could have been cool to see if those deleted scenes were included. But
yeah,
you've already got so much content. You gotta pick and choose something that's gonna stick with the fans.
I will say I was sad that the DB Cooper bit was not part of the plot.
Yeah,
way, because that was a great moment in the trailer, and it was a really funny gag, but it ultimately was only a gag, which is fine. It's the focus, but I'm like, if it wasn't going to be part of the plot, I kind of wish they just hadn't included it, and it would in the trailer, and then it would have just come up as this random thing, and Owen was like, I can't believe you were DB Cooper. It's
so
such
funny.
a funny, and it's so many people in the target audience for these series will have no idea what that is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I only know about it from Red Letter Media. That is how I know about DB Cooper.
Yeah, I think I only know about him through you. So
yeah, but for those who are not in the know, DB Cooper. I mean, it kind of shows what happens in the series, but this is a real thing that happened. He was a man. He was on a plane. He demanded that they bring him a briefcase full of cash and take off the plane. And then mid-flight, he jumped out of the plane and was never seen again. And in the lore of Loki, it's because Heimdall summoned him via the Bifrost mid-air.
It was just a bet.
It was just a bet with Thor.
I lost a bet, so I had to go rob some humans on Midgard.
It was so good. It was great. I'm curious to see if Loki shows up in Thor 4. I don't think he's going to be in it. Because
I think if anything, he'll be like a flashback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because Thor's emotional journey with Loki, I think might be over. Unless they decide to cross this version over with him again at some point in the future. I don't know. But I don't think he'll be in it. That movie has a lot of characters in it already. But I guess it'd be interesting to see this Loki reunite with our primary version of Thor at a certain point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be fun if they can do it right.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not just, let's reintroduce him, but it's more like, okay, let's have them meet briefly for a second or just for a few minutes, but it's not like they're completely reunited.
Totally.
I think Loki's kind of got a different story to play in the universe now. He's not really going to be associated with the Asgardians anymore. It's going to be more multiverse or magic. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. You have any other thoughts on Loki, or should we give some final thoughts on it?
I guess one other thing with that, it's just kind of stating the obvious that this series has some barriers to entry. I feel like if you haven't watched Endgame or some of the Thor movies, if you watched Ragnarok, you could probably get away with watching this maybe. But if you didn't watch Infinity War, Endgame, you might be a little bit lost.
Totally.
If you did watch those movies and you're not a geeky nerd, then you've probably forgotten some key details, and you'll be like, wait, so because I was telling my girlfriend okay, so this is what the Tesseract is. Do you remember what happened in Endgame?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to rewatch that scene?
At least it opens with the Endgame scene.
Yes.
spark that memory for those who may have forgotten. But
Yeah.
no, I agree. And I think it's going to be more and more of a thing going forward. It's like it is odd that, like, you would think they would set like a new entry point post Endgame for potential new fans to get on, but they're like, nah, we're going to do WandaVision.
Yeah. we're not slowing down. We're going full steam ahead, like
which is great for people like us. The audience of these movies and series is huge, and obviously they're doing fine. But it is interesting that they seem to be going all in on weird, which I think is good. So
yeah, well, I want them to explore that stuff. I want them to get weird. You know, I've seen the same, like, you know, I've seen 100 superhero movies, you know, or more. You know, I've seen plenty of them. I know what the formula's like. I know what to expect. Now take my expectations and flip them upside down and give me something weird and strange and that I'm not going to expect. And yeah, I think Loki sets a nice tone for, you know, the MCU moving forward. Is every series and every movie going to live up to that expectation? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think Hawkeye is going to be nearly on the same level as Loki, for sure.
I think it's going to be very cool. I think it's going to surprise people. But you're right. It's not going to be as out there because it's a bow and arrow guy and a bow and arrow girl who will be his successor. But Loki does what I want to see Marvel do more. Same with WandaVision. Falcon and Winter Soldier, less so. Black Widow, less so. But I've said it before, I think, on the show, but it's like they have a massive built-in audience who will see anything that has their logo. Use that to make really interesting and cool things. Don't get lazy, and that's a big criticism of Marvel, is that, like, they're all the same. They're not, really, but some of them do have the same formula. I will give you that. But, like, use your brand power and recognition to tell really out there and cool stories with the characters you have or with new characters. Like, you don't need to bring back Iron Man because you could make a movie about fucking Korg and someone would watch it.
Yeah.
Like, you have thousands of characters. No one gives a shit who they are if they have your logo because we're sucked in, which is a bad thing in a lot of...
Yeah.
But the potential to be extremely creative is now there. They started not even safe. I mean, they started with what they had when they started off. Like, Iron Man was not popular. Captain America was not that popular. Thor wasn't either. And now they are. Like, that's what I'm getting at. It's like they took B, C tier characters and made them some of the most popular characters on the planet. Do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Change the game again. Give us a new lineup of heroes that's out there and strange and exciting and diverse. You know, stories that are strange and off the wall and from outer space that are cosmic and that we can't predict.
Right. Like, you have an audience of people who now love the character Mobius M. Mobius, who is someone I think a lot of comic book nerds don't even know about. And now we do. We know about the Timekeepers and variations of Loki, and it's like, it's cool. You can do anything. Like,
bring all that geeky stuff from the comics over. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like,
don't play it
safe. I would even be so jazzed to see, like, way down in the line, you know, for the next Avengers team up against Kang, you know, assuming that's how it is, you know. It's a whole new cast of Avengers, you know, you don't recognize, it's none of the original six are there, you know, it's a whole new kind of leadership and everything like that. And then they even go out of their way to, like, you know, bring back old villains to try and fight Kang.
Yeah.
You know, I think that'll be so cool because, like, I keep seeing this pops up in my Instagram feed way too much. But it's like a still from, like, the comics. I don't know which Marvel issue it is, but it's like they bring Thanos back to fight Kang for them. They're like, we need your help to defeat this guy, and Kang just crushes him in a second. Like,
oh my God.
I think it'll be so cool if they can just explore that stuff and, like, get really experimental with it.
Yeah. Well, what'll be interesting too is Nathaniel Richards, Kang, is a descendant of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
And that movie is on the horizon, the far side of the horizon, but it's coming. So I hope Kang is still around as an entity by the time Reed Richards is introduced. That would be pretty interesting. It also, I mean, plenty of generations in between the two, but the casting for Kang indicates that maybe Reed Richards will be black, which would be nice. Increased.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd be more than okay with that. I have no say in that. So
Yeah, it's like there's nothing about Reed Richards' character that implies he needs to be white. He's just been white so far. You can change it up. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one of the like potential casting names out there is the dude who played Chidi in The Good Place.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
he's a good actor. He's fun.
Yeah. I would like that too. It would be cool. But yeah, the series sets up a lot of stuff. I think it's really good. And it's good on its own, but it also sets up a lot of interesting prospects for the future.
Yeah, I love the series a lot. It's fantastic. I would 100% recommend it. Please watch it, especially if you are excited about the future of the MCU and you want to know what's going on at the next movie, the next time you go see a series or whatever. So, yeah, I think I'm more excited about the future than I am about this series. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's transition to other stuff that we have been watching or reading or playing. Niles, what have you been watching?
This and that. There's this one show I come back to time and time again, and it kind of describes the title describes my life sometimes. It's called People Just Do Nothing.
Oh, you told me about that. Yeah.
Yes,
I watched a bit of it with you, I think. It was so stupid.
It's a British mockumentary, and it's really dumb. It's about these losers, these drughead losers who run a pirate radio station in I think Bristol, London. I have no idea where the fuck
Bristol is not London. It's the UK. But it's...
Okay, thank you. So I think that they're somewhere in London, maybe like the outer suburbs. I don't fucking know. But they're in somewhere in the UK, and yeah, it's basically they just do nothing, and it's just really funny because they get into some stupid fucking antics and like it's like a worse version of The Office. You know, it's like it's not nearly as good, but it's stupid humor to pass the time. So I come back to that from time to time, but I can't find myself to get past like season 3.
It was pretty insufferable from what I watched.
Yes,
it was well done. It was well done, but it was like I can't.
Yeah, some of these people just fucking suck. And Isabel's, my girlfriend. Fuck. My girlfriend, she's been watching Downton Abbey, so I've been rewatching some of that with her as well. And the other night, I just on our Marvel fix, so I rewatched Infinity War and Endgame just because I wanted to, and they still hold up, and they were just as like impactful, and Iron Man's death at the end, that kind of hit home again. It was like, oh gosh, it's so beautiful.
It's really great. It's a great cast, his character.
Yeah, it is. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, as of last night, I have caught up on the Stormlight Archive book series, and now I am just in the waiting game for Sanderson to publish the next one. Great book series so far. I've loved everything of his that I've read, so I will continue to do that.
Nice.
My sister was in town over the weekend, and she got me started watching New Girl, which has been fun. It's a funny show. I've only seen like 3 episodes, but I've enjoyed it, and I will keep watching. And last week, I watched Fear Street Part 1 on Netflix. They made a whole trilogy, and they released them 1 week at a time. And that was a lot of fun. It's a great sort of... it's not Stranger Things, like the tone is kind of similar to Stranger Things, and it's playing off the horror genre, but it is much more brutal and dark than Stranger Things is at the same time. Like, characters are more likely to get horribly murdered than they are in Stranger Things. So but it's really good. I liked it a lot, and I'm going to watch the second and third one.
Cool. I might check that out.
Yeah, and another thing that just happened today or yesterday, great news. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is on Amazon Prime. You can watch it.
That was so funny. The first episode was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think there are some versions of it that don't include the interview segments, which is not the way to watch it. It's like, I hope the Amazon Prime one is the full deal with the interviews, because it's so much of the show is in those interviews. But if you haven't watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, it until this week has only been available on YouTube, basically. But now you can watch it legit. So do it. It's really funny.
I keep forgetting to watch that. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch one of those tonight.
Yeah. And that's all I've been consuming. I'm back on the Thor comic train now. I'm gonna finish that story arc. That's the next thing I'm reading.
Excellent.
And then moving on to something else. But that will do it for us this week, I think.
Yes.
Next episode is going to be James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And then the following episode, which is, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but is going to be The Green Knight. And I mention that now because The Green Knight comes out the evening after this episode goes live. And it's getting amazing reviews. It's A24. It's a smaller film from an independent studio. Support independent film, even though we're talking about one of the biggest franchises in the universe right now. Because I want to talk full spoilers about The Green Knight, and even though the story is hundreds of years old, you may not know it. So go watch that movie in prep. I'm sure most of you watching this are going to see The Suicide Squad and did not need encouragement for that. So, where can people find you online, Niles? Unless you have anything to say.
No, yeah. People can find me on Instagram right now. Niles Got No Styles. That's basically all the content that I'm pushing out, and this podcast here, Play Pause Rewind. So please like and subscribe if you like these episodes. We're publishing them every 2 weeks. We love doing this, and we love just talking about entertainment and everything. So Dylan, where can people find you?
Many places. So you can find me on Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at DDayMovies. Check out my YouTube channel where I make videos about movies. And that is called D-Day Movies as well, linked through social media. You can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/DDayMovies. Tonight, well, you're going to miss this because this comes out days later, but I'm actually thinking about streaming the editing of this episode, so that'll be fun, maybe. But yeah, with that, we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.